Good morning, everybody. I'm going to get started as people are still kind of coming in. My name is Holly Burnt. I'm with Aesthetic Professionals, and we are a dental education center. We are a lab and a distribution center. And since the basis of our company is education, we wanted to put on these free webinars for you. Today, we have Dave Caballera and Dr. Greg Campbell, and they are going to go over Smile Creator by Exocad. So I'm really excited. They put together a really great presentation for you. These are the webinars that we have coming up. I'll send out an email to everybody after the webinar to kind of, so you can see and click on the link to sign up for any of these. And let me see. I can get, okay. This isn't a sales presentation, but I did want you to know that we currently do have discounts on all of our software. With Exocad, we have a 15% discount on everything. And we also have some really great financing options as far as no payments for 6 months and deferrals and low payments for a year. So if you have any questions about any of that, please do not hesitate to call either me or Jessie Zamaripa, and we can go over any of that with you. So during the webinar, if you happen to have any questions, please put them in the question box, and I will be going through them, and some of them we'll be able to kind of jump in and ask, and some we'll get to at the end, but whatever it is, we will definitely answer all of your questions. And I believe that is it. I'm going to transfer this over to you, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Holly. So we'll actually get the presentation started today with Dr. Greg Campbell. Dr. Campbell is a dentist out of California, and he has recently started working with us for a couple of presentations that we've already worked with him on. And we're very honored that Dr. Campbell has agreed to provide us with his clinical background and experience during this session. So over to you, Dr. Campbell.
Thanks, Dave. Well, good morning, everyone. You know, we're kind of in an interesting situation here in the United States. A lot of us are homeschooling, and I just want to give you a couple updates with how we're doing with that. So far, we've had 2 students suspended for fighting, and one of the teachers here at the house has been fired for drinking on the job. So that's about what's going on here with us. And then I just got the kids in the garage today's shop class. So they've got all the power tools while I'm doing this. So nothing could go wrong there, right? Anyway, I'm so glad you're all here. And I am beyond excited to present to you the Smile Creator by Exocad. Those of you who know me, I've been involved with CAD/CAM for many, many years, and I've been a beta tester for many systems as well. Dave, I need to have access to moving these slides, please.
Okay, I think you're all set up.
All right, what I see on my screen, Dave, is says connected to GoToWebinar. There we go. I still don't have access, Dave.
Right,
so what yeah, let's see if we can go forward here.
I'll go ahead and switch for you.
All right. Graduated from the University of Southern California. I don't want to go spend much time on this slide, but I've been an alpha and beta tester for many products. The twist polishing kits that you are using for polishing all of your materials, whether it be Emax or zirconia or the polyceramics, I actually created those with Meisinger USA. And I've developed the pre-sintering zirconia polishing technique that's now being used worldwide. I've gotten very lucky on some of the things that I'm able to do here, but I'm most excited about aesthetics and being able to have a product that I can use cross-platform, meaning I can use any scanner and put it in with this program and have it work and work at this high of a level and have consistency. I'm excited about it. I've been waiting for years for this. So I'm going to go through and show you how I use it, and then we're going to actually show you the case. We're going to actually design this case together. I'm going to show you the case, then we're going to design it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot them for Polly, and we'll get going here. So let's go ahead, one more slide here, Dave. I do not have access to the to moving these slides, Dave. Okay, so we're going to go an overview of the smile creator. This is the case we're going to do on this young lady here. And the next thing we're going to do, why use the smile creator and what are the steps for success? So I'm going to show you how I use this, and I'm going to go through some tips and tricks that are going to make whether you use Smile Creator, which I hope you do, or another product, you're going to have consistency by doing that. So we're going to do a case and see the emotional mock-up as well. So with that, let's get started. All right. So in the in the analog days, we had really only a choice of taking impressions, whether it be Silginate or PVS. We would then take photographs, we'd send that to the lab, and we'd say, can you do a wax up? And we say, well, we'd like to add some length. Very rarely we do a face bow transfer or anything like that. What I would do is I would actually draw. I would draw the case, and then I would wax the case up. A case like this, in this case, I would wax this up in about 35 minutes. And then I would actually create the putty matrix and transfer it to the patient to see if I got it right. And there's a lot of guesswork, and in many cases, kind of stressful. And so what I want to do is have a digital workflow that was predictable, that was easy to use, and repeatable. And that's what I get with the Smile Creator. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to keep doing things the same way, or are you open for change? And most of you that are on here already are doing changes. Most of us are involved with digital and are finding great results with that. In whatever capacity, whether it's just the scanning and sending it to your preferred lab, or if you're doing everything in-house, that's okay. The good thing is you have choices. And for me, I like having options, and I like having things that are going to allow me to have great communication with my patients as well as with my preferred lab. So here's the case. This is the case that we're going to show you. This is where we're starting. This lady is 26 years old, and she is a Hispanic origin, meaning that when she was young, her father would squeeze lemon juice in her mouth from birth, and when the teeth came in, and she would eat lemons every day. And this is the effects of lemons. This is not anorexia or bulimia. And she just doesn't like to smile. She's a beautiful young lady. And the bottom slide there shows what I was able to create with Smile Creator for her, just doing the 4 teeth. We had very little damage with the canines other than the surface, so I can bond those and correct that. So I always look at a case as what is the most minimal approach I can take. Some people here would say, let's do 10 veneers. Some people would say, let's crown everything. We can't do. But I'm going to discuss this case in great detail as we go. But I was able to get this from start to finish in approximately 30 minutes of my time. So this is my happy place, this photo on the left. This is actually here in California. I go up and down these stairs about 13 times a day on the weekends. The beaches are closed now. And so I can just look at this photo and remember what it was like. So I can't wait to get back and do those steps again. All right, so what we do here is we're going to do a precise alignment of 2D photos and 3D data. We actually can do this at a very high level of, if you standardize the photos, it makes it easier. And so you have an exact overlay of the patient. And so Dave and I are going to show this to you here shortly, and we're going to go through this case. So for me, the critical part here is having a good 3D scan, which took me about 3 minutes to do an upper and lower arch total, and my photos. So I will show you how I go about taking photos in just a moment. Then we're going to have a reproduction of natural tooth shapes. And we all know that we want the centrals, we want the teeth to match the outline of the patient's face. You're not going to use square teeth on a ovoid face. And I love the library that they have here. The software comes with 8 libraries, but believe it or not, I think you can get over 125 libraries, and Dave can certainly correct me on that later on. But I mean, I love the fact that I have all these choices to pick the style of tooth shape that I can actually reproduce the natural shape. And then you get real-time smile design preview. Now, depending on your graphics card, and I will tell you this photo does not do this justice, you can actually, when you're showing this to the patient, you can actually match their other teeth in the mouth the color, so it looks like it's already done instead of it being yellow or being ivory white. So I love the fact that we can actually show the patient or communicate with the lab a real-time smile design preview. So these are great features of Smile Creator. And then a realistic overview of projected outcomes. So this is me doing the mock-up. This is the mock-up in her mouth immediately. I have not trimmed off any excess or anything on here just to show her the difference here. And we're going to go through again this case, and I'll show you the pros and cons of what we did here. So again, just an overview or a recap of what the Smile Creator does. We've got a precise alignment of the photos, which is 2D with the 3D data. And you guys, I went through all that as well for you. We've got a realistic preview of projected outcomes. That is the most important thing, is being able to show the patient and have that emotional buy-in of and proceeding with some of these cases that some people wouldn't do. And in fact, you can take this file and you can actually mill out or print out and actually overlay this instead of just using your putty matrix. It's up to you. So here's what are our steps for success. What are we doing here? This is, I'll tell you the story about this photo on the left. When I did the mock-up on her, she didn't have lipstick on. And after, when she saw the mirror, she started to cry and she went into the bathroom. I thought, oh, I really messed this up. She hates this. And actually, when she came out, she had lipstick on. And she was so excited about it. And this was Valentine's Day. And so she was like, you're not taking these off. I'm going on my date with my sweetheart. And so it really made me feel good that she actually, I've never seen her smile this big. And I'll show you her photos and show you that she really just didn't like smiling. So with photography, the key here is you've got to have the patient rest up against a wall. And so what I use is a tissue box. I want the patient's head not to move. This is a really key for being able to have your photos stitch. And so you don't want a person moving around. You don't want their head tilted or canted. There's some things I'm going to go through here. So I use a tissue box. Now I took a photo with her with a tissue box so you can see it, but I actually wrap that. I wrap it in black. So I tend to use a black background on this. Also, you want to slightly overexpose your photographs. It just makes this go so much easier when you're using the software as well, slight overexposure. So you're going to mount the camera. This is the box is now wrapped behind your neck. You're going to mount the camera on a tripod because I want to have the same angles and shots when I'm doing this. Most people tend to shift their head or tilt their head to one side or the other, or they move to their good side. And you've got to really make sure that you are straight on with these patients. So I always tell people, take the retracted smile first. Remember, she got a box supporting her neck. So if you have that in there and you're taking the photo immediately, you could just have her slip that out, and then you go into taking your smile photo. So there's no change or movement in the patient's position. And then you also got to make sure, she had an issue where she would always tilt her head to the right. And she'd slightly move to the right because she feels her right side is her best side. And so I take a lot of photos to make sure I get the right ones here. This generally takes about 4 minutes. And then here's the key here. You want to make sure when you're doing these photographs to use any type of digital creator for smiles, you want to have equal amounts of the ears. You must see equal amounts of the ears. And that way everything is going to line up very well with your 2D and 3D. So we're going to calibrate the photos. And again, we're going to have these going at the same size, same shape, same distance. So I'm not taking a photo really up close and one far away. I'm making sure that I have a standard protocol in taking these photographs. Most of you already know this, but I just like to share, my journey on this and what I use. Now, my way is not the only way to do this. There are probably other ways and people might have a better suggestion, and that's fine. I'm always open to learning. For me, this is just the most seamless protocol that we use in our office, and this is something I can delegate to my team to do as well. Now, one thing I like about my scan is I took my scan. You can take the scan with any scanner. You can use the Shining, you can use the Carestream 3700, you can use the Prime Scan. I mean, there's the iTero. You can use any of the things that you want to do. The Trios 4, I think, is there's some great scanners. Here's the nice thing, all scanners work. You just have to learn how to scan properly with them. Now, the nice thing on this is this scan was done with the Prime Scan, and what I like is I can now export an STL file, which would not be in color, an OBJ or PLY. So when I send it through the Connect inbox, I actually send it as a PLY file. And so you can now bring any file into Exocad. That's a beautiful thing. It's complete open architecture. So you now have the ability to cross-platform work that you don't have these glitches that used to be the concern. Is you can't, you don't want to go out of the platform of the company. You want to stay with this company's product. You don't have to do that. And so I love bringing in the POY files for this. OBJ would work just as well. And the STL, in my opinion, with the system I use, I want the color. So that's why I'm doing that. So the beautiful thing is Exocad accepts them all. There's not, well, we might take this, we're thinking of taking this, it's coming soon, we're taking this. It's not. They are taking them now. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing about a company that has a software that works with everyone. So let's do a case. This is what we got. She's super happy. Look at the smile. The photo on the left, it was so painful to get her to even smile to that degree. Look at her eyes on the left and the eyes on the right. What a difference for this young lady. And also keep in mind about 2 weeks went by, so she decided to color her hair too. But she's gotten a little sassy on us, and I like that. She's very, very happy with the mock-up and what we're going to go be doing here. So what I do here on every patient is I take, if you go from left to right, I take a closed photo, I take a quarter smile, then I take the half smile, and I take a full smile. Look at the strain in her eyes on the right, trying to smile. She just doesn't like smiling. In fact, most of her smiling is the second photo from the left. It's a quarter smile. She just, if you really make her laugh, she's squinching, she's straining on the third photo from the left. But this is what I started with. And these are important photos because I want to see what can I work with. We obviously know we've lost some length of the centrals and the laterals, significant wear from the acids from the lemons, okay? Fortunately, we only have buccal problems or surface issues because of the lemons with the canine and some slight wear on number 11. So let's go forward here. So I do this with every patient. I set this up, I set this template up, and I work with this. This tells me a lot. I also, if I'm going to send this to my preferred lab who uses Exocad, maybe I don't have time to do this smile design, which can happen and does happen, I'll send the same stuff to my lab so that he has everything to ensure success for this case. So these photos really were very telling for me. I missed stuff on this, but when I saw the photos, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe the surface erosion on these teeth and the wear. Her home care is actually pretty tremendous, good. Sometimes we don't have that, right? And so what I wanted to do here is I'm thinking, okay, we definitely have some issues here. There's some wear. I'm wondering if we have enough room on the bottom to even do this case. So I'm thinking veneering here. I'm not thinking full crowns. But the photo on the right is what really got me. I did not fully realize the amount of erosion on the facial of these centrals until I saw that photo on the right. So I take a lot of photos on patients, and it's very important. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and this is a great thing to where this is going to be a minimal prep on doing these if I can do this. I'm still not sure I can. So now what we're doing is, there's no audio on this, and I apologize, but I take every patient through Mississippi, counting from 50 to 60, 60 to 70. And what I'm looking for is my wet, dry line. I'm looking for my phonetics, the F, the V's, the S's, obviously. This is telling me everything. We're getting a lot of lag here, but I go through this with every patient, so I'm asking the same questions. Once I've got this information, that helps me when I'm going to start to set this case up in Exocad, or even if I was going to be presenting this back. Now, here's the images that I took. I took an upper full arch and a lower full arch. Again, the scan took me approximately 3 minutes. I think it was about 2 minutes and 58 seconds total. And it's not about speed, it's about getting a really good scan. And what's amazing is if you look on the upper right corner, that's her lower arch, she cannot stand that space between the lower canine and the laterals there. We have an arch discrepancy as well with some teeth that are missing. But that's what she shows because she's not really smiling much, okay? So I'm also seeing a lot of wear on the lingual of the upper anteriors, which tells me we have an issue there. How am I going to address that? Now in Australia, there's a prosthodontist that came up with a sandwich technique that we could do that with composite as well and just veneer the facial. But I'm also looking at, we have an orthodontic situation here with our arch and with the crowding of the lower, and I don't want to blow her out of the water by saying, hey, let's go into ortho. I want to see what I can show her, because she came in because she didn't like her upper front teeth and she didn't like the gap on the lower. So it's amazing what the pictures will tell you, and it's also incredible what the digital models will show you. Okay, so this is basically the entire software here. And in just a moment, I'm gonna go through this with Dave, or Dave's gonna go through this with you. But what we have here is how we're gonna do the insertion axis, the model. Now we're gonna overlay the 2D model, 2D photos with the model with a 3D scan. So we're gonna do the retracted first, and then we do the smile photo. Then we cut out the lip line. You're able to set the smile curvature. It's really, really cool to where you can correct. And so a lot of labs, if you just give them models and a few photographs, they have to use a template, and they're trying to figure out from the pupils what to do. This software will actually, it lays out as you click on the proper area on the pupils, it shows you the midline. And so I'm very, very happy that this program makes my life easier. And it actually works pretty well. I'm not having glitching where it's stalling out or jamming up or not working. I'm not getting a proposal that looks so crazy that I'm like, I'm frustrated, like other softwares have. In fact, well, let's just keep going forward here. I love the fact that this works and works very, very high level. So what I did here in showing you this is I set the case up for success. I know that we can add length. I know that the canine wasn't involved in this. So I know from the molars to canine, I can set my arch, my smile line, my smile arch. I know how much I can add. And so I'm going to set this up. So what I ended up doing was, if you look at the top here, remember she went into the bathroom and she put this lipstick on, but this is what she looks like in the top 3 photos are where we started. The bottom 3 is with the mock-up. This mock-up is with Luxatemp and a putty matrix. And what's funny about this is that she would not let me take this off. I had to take it off and clean it. I spot bonded it so she could go on her date that night. She was crying. I mean, you want to talk about an emotional thing here. Instead of saying, well, here, I'm going to show you this model, what I can do from the lab. It looks kind of good. I'm not really sure I want to do this. It's amazing that you actually have buy-in. And in fact, with this case, I'll show you at the end once Dave and I are done designing this case for you. She agreed for ortho, to go into ortho. We're going to intrude the lower anteriors and expand the arch. And we're going to be able to do that before we do the teeth on the top. So she ended up going for a complete case, as opposed to just trying to repair a few things or put a Band-Aid over them. So I'm very happy the results I got. I wouldn't have gotten this without the Smile Creator by Exocad. So it is a tremendous tool. It's a resource of communication with your lab and equally with your patients. It's a wonderful tool for that. And I'm all for having things that make my life easier. I don't want harder. I've had harder before. As I get older, I don't want that anymore. So we're going to go forward with this. So at this point, Dave, let's go ahead and show this case. We're going to show how we line up the case and do everything. So I'm going to turn this over to Dave right now, if that's okay. Are there any questions?
Thanks. We'll hold for a couple questions here before we get started on the demo.
I think we're good for right now.
All right.
There was one question, Dave, I think that you may know the answer to, but are the steps the same in Ceramil Mind? I believe so, right?
I believe so. I mean, Ceramil Mind is based off of Exocad, so the sequence and the functionality are typically the same. What you'll benefit from Ceramil Mind is when you buy the complete AG solution, they have validated certain, let's say, materials that that they know work, and the parameters are already applied. So it shouldn't differ much from the generic version, but that's what our OEM partners tend to do, is they try to optimize for specific materials and milling systems.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we begin the wizard by loading the retracted image. And this really just helps us align the 3D to the two-dimensional image here. So I'll bring these up and a little closer. So we'll zoom in. And what I tend to do, and I see from Dr. Campbell's images, he selected some points here in the anterior. So everyone kind of has their own technique. I'll share mine. And I try to pick points as far back as I can see them. The reason for that is that it tends to leave me with a, sorry about that. Let me, I think I dropped a point somewhere unintentionally. There we go. Okay, so we'll get my blue dots to line up here and green points here. So it tends to leave me with a couple of anchor points in the back where I feel that it makes rotating the front of the image a little easier. So I mean, it was that easy. And then you can kind of look at the cervical junction here and see if you need to adjust the scaling a little bit. So the right side of the patient looks okay, and so does the patient's left now. So really, I'm looking. Go ahead, Dr. Campbell.
So much easier doing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess every case is different, but that seems to be pretty reliable there. And then for the 2D images, again, kind of zoom in. And these are a little easier. Here, I just tend to stay towards the front. So I just kind of pick a point here in the embrasures. And when you see the overlap here, they should be almost identical. You know, if I zoom in and move one of these points, you'll see how the transparency changes a little bit, but this is already in pretty good alignment. So we select next, and the wizard-based tools here are very easy. They're always telling you exactly what you need to do. And if at any point you do have a question, you could always hit this help button here, and it takes you to either a wiki, or if you're in the chair side mode, there's a PDF that will open up to the appropriate section of that step, and it gives you step-by-step instructions. So here we're just using our left mouse button to click around the lip line. And once I get to the corner here, I tend to make my points a little bit closer together. And then you could kind of spread them out a little bit more for longer sections. And then you could always move these around. If you need to add an additional point, you can do that. If you need to delete a point, you can do that as well. So very flexible tool there. And this is also more or less the same way that our margins work as well, the same type of functionality. So if you are an Exocad user, the points and curve drawing applies the same way across the platform. So the next step is to select the center of the pupil. And what I like to do is I like to just zoom the picture to match the crosshair, so that, because sometimes these lights or the reflection on the pupil will kind of get you, and you try to select those points and they may not be directly in the center. So I just try to zoom this out to where my crosshairs just match the diameter of the pupil, and I make my selection there. And now we see a midline that gets dropped here on the patient. And now we can control, this is currently the golden ratio. So we can adjust the width here to match whatever liking, and you can start to activate different different guidelines and things like that. If you like, you can add additional curves, or say if you wanted to drop an additional, you can place those, delete them as needed. These two guidelines, and I'll widen this up a little bit. So we want to try to match the width of the cuspids here by just putting those on the cusp tips, and that should give you the appropriate ratio between the centrals, the laterals, and then of course further down the cuspids if we were designing all of those. You can use this also to position the length that you're trying to use and or that you're trying to gain, and use that as a guideline as you bring in your design. Now this curve is also interesting. You can tilt this if needed, and then you can also change the radius of that curve as well. So that can also benefit the user as you're trying to bring this design into reality. Is there anything that you would change there, Dr. Campbell, or any additional insight from a clinical perspective?
Well, the only thing I would change on this, and I like how you set that on the canines. That's a little different technique than what I was taught. I switched my proportion rules to scale it for her proportion, which it ended up being 1.34, and then I was able to get that line distal of the canine. But I like how you set this up.
Okay.
The good news is you have different options that get the same outcome.
Right. Yeah, it's quite flexible, and you could even create your own templates if there's a specific region that you start identifying similarities, maybe by ethnic background or anything like that. It's a tool that's built to just allow that flexibility.
Also,
So,
in this slide right here that Dave's doing, everyone, you have the ability to have this default to your favorite. Everybody has a favorite library, tooth library. So you can have it default to that favorite one, or you can cycle through all of these to see which one works best for the patient's profile. So it's good to have that choice of what to make things more efficient for you as well.
okay, so I believe that in this case you use the highly defined or high definition library.
That works very well on this one, yeah.
Okay. So what you'll see in Exocad Smile Creator that may be different from other applications is that you get to work with the two-dimensional image and outline at the same time that you can visualize this three-dimensionally. One advantage here is that you can see the spacing of the arch. So sometimes when you're planning things on a two-dimensional image, that orthogonal view, where it's just flat on a two-dimensional plane doesn't really translate well once you move over to 3D. So it may be that you have to adjust certain tooth widths or make other modifications that you may have otherwise been not expecting to come up during the case. So with this, we do have several handles here and ways to rotate. You can move everything as a group or individually. You can lengthen things in 3D or in 2D and make adjustments that way. Now, you didn't do any sort of gingival sculpting or anything for
No.
her, right, Doctor?
No, we did not.
So here, being able to see this from multiple angles is also very helpful because, like I said, you could kind of make those general, I guess, universal changes fairly quickly. Holly, was there a question that came up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask this when you were talking about the tooth libraries. Somebody was asking how extensive the tooth libraries are, and then someone else was wondering if it works with the ZRS tooth libraries.
It does work with the ZRS tooth libraries as well as many community-built libraries. So there's certain Exocad groups that every now and then I'll see someone publish just a user-created library. I think the most recent one I saw was from an Italian lab, and I think they called it Italian Tooth Library, something along those lines. But those get published, the files get shared, and you could just import those into your scene or I guess your platform, and you can work with those as well. So yes, it does work with ZRS. And ZRS is a library that we have available with a license purchased from Exocad. So those do work. I think they're also distributed with the Alma Gearbox system as well. All right, so just a couple of other features here before we move on to the next step, and we won't spend too much time perfecting this. I'm sure Dr. Campbell can find a lot of things that he would tweak on this particular setup, but in the interest of time, we'll just kind of focus on demonstrating some core functionality here. So we do have this free-forming tool that's available during this outline section, and with this you can make, let's say that you wanted to maybe close or open up this embrasure. You can just take this this tooth and manipulate it very quickly here. You can maybe change the what that corner looks like right there on the tooth. So very easy and functional tools here, just to provide you with some broad functions. Again, you can kind of shape the incisal edge as you wish. So you can see all of this occurring here in 3D as well. So as you're making these changes, you can see how it's affecting the three-dimensional view. And we can just say okay there. You can also activate different measurements. So if you wanted to see the length and width of each of the teeth that were outlined here, that shows up as well. Now we can switch to preview mode, and you can see the rendering here. Now, once we move on to the next step, we'll be able to visualize the tooth colors, or actually select from stock values here. Or if I go to customize my color selection, this allows me to now pick individual colors that I see from this image and try to get that that to match a little closer to the color spectrum that we see in her photos. And then you can always adjust these, you know, to make them a little darker, or you can change the spectrum here. So very nice tool set, something that you can use to customize the experience for the user. Another thing I like to do too is sometimes the lighting that's produced virtually is not necessarily optimal. So you can use this magic lantern tool to just maybe visualize some more of the characterization that's applied on the library. So once we move this light here, we can also go back and maybe select other values here. So that's just some of the initial tools that are available here with Smile Creator.
Dave, really quick, or maybe Dr. Campbell, I think you touched on this, but did you do any lasering on the gingiva beforehand, or do you need to? Is that something that you do here and there?
We didn't do any workup on this. We did discuss it with her to idealize the zeniths. Although her zeniths are pretty good, she does show some gummy there, which would affect this. What we decided to do is when she elected to go into ortho to intrude the lowers and do it, we're going to try to address some of that as well. Try to intrude the upper anteriors as well. So at this point, no laser contouring is on the docket, but we will revisit that once she's done with ortho.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
So just to kind of quickly finalize this this demonstration portion here, once we're done with the actual Smile Creator setup, we have some additional tools where, let's say that we wanted to fill that area in. We could go and freeform that tooth there and add a little bit of material right there, closer to the gingiva. So something like that. And you know, you could always smooth those out as well. Sorry, I meant to select both of these. So quick modifications there. And one last feature that I wanted to show is in our latest release, we do have the ability to right click on the scene and create a digital wax up model, which combines the ponics that we've designed here, or the teeth from the tooth library, with a model that I had previously created with our model creator module. So with model creator, you can take the scans and add basis to them, turn it into a hollow model, and again, it's wizard based. You can add labels if you'd like. So there's quite a few features that are nice about Model Creator, which prevents you from having to do this with third-party solutions that may not be as reliable or as robust in functionality. So
Yeah, I really like this. I really like the Smile Creator module. I mean, it's just so easy and nice.
yeah. So what I did there was I just clicked on Create Digital Wax Up Model, and you can see that we still have the patient's existing dentition here, but in addition to that, we now also have the library teeth that we've added in here, and that's combined into a single STL file that can be used for printing. So that's the latest change, and with that, I'll switch back over to the presentation, Dr. Campbell.
Okay.
Let you conclude with that.
So what you saw is you could spend a great deal of time idealizing your wax up. And the wonderful thing is you have the tools to do it. You can customize this. Everyone does this a little different. And I learned from the ceramicists, they do it one way. Dave has a really interesting look at this today as well. So I learned as well today. But this is the actual wax up that I did on the bottom for the patient. This is what I had on the top was my original laydown of it. And then I customized it at that point. I broadened and widened it a little bit as well. So this is right before I went into Model Creator and created the models that I needed. Dave, I don't have the ability. Oh, thank you so much. So this is what I ended up. That was my final design on this. And then I went into I got an outstanding result with this, I thought. Some people say, well, it looks a little squatty still. You don't have the right golden proportion. But you got to remember where we started with her reverse smile. We don't have a reverse smile at this point in doing this. And again, this was going to be seeing if we could even do the case if we were just going to be doing just this. But I wanted to open the door to correcting all the other things that were going on with her. All right, so again, to show you the dynamic changes and drastic changes here, the pre-op model is on the top, and you have the digital wax up on the bottom. Again, the total time on this from taking the photos to get to this point was about 30 minutes, maybe 45. And again, a lot of this was delegated to the team to get everything into there. And I finalized the design and the wax up at this point. So I really believe in having cross training and having things done right. Also, you have the ability to send this to your preferred lab, and your distributor has preferred labs where they can actually put this design together for you very, very quickly at a reasonable fee as well. Okay, so there's my model creators on the upper left. I'm pretty happy with that. Then I sent this to a friend because I was doing this for Chicago Midwinter. We carbon printed these models, and I was able to take the photos to see what I was going to do here. I then did a putty matrix. I took the putty matrix, I marked it, identified it, I scalloped it so I could clean off the excess well, and I decided since I was going to take these photos just to show her that I was going to use Luxatemp. So I use Luxatemp. You can use anything you want on this. I could have milled these out and overlaid these. I could have easily done that, but I was a little pressed for time because again, I had a deadline with the Chicago Midwinter. I did this entire case in like less than a week. I like to have choices, so I'm used to doing this, so I did this. It was really quite easy. So once I did that, everybody's familiar with how you do this, the scalloping technique. And then I was able to go ahead and transfer this to the patient's mouth. So I took a picture of what it looked like in the mouth. I layered in on, as you go from top to bottom, left to right. I tried it in to make sure that it was fitting from the model, which it did, and completely accurately. I layered in my Luxitemp, and then I put it in there, and for a minute and a half, I left it alone, and I took the excess off that was extruding from those points. And then what I decided to do at this point was I took it out. Let's see if I can get this. And that's exactly what it looked like untouched. I didn't clean off. You can see some flash, especially distal of the laterals. And this is what I wanted to show the effect. And again, you say, well, I still think you could add link to this. And I wouldn't argue that. But remember, if you look at the photograph I showed you, the pre-op model and this, there's a significant difference for this. But ultimately, this is the pucker factor moment. This is the moment where you're going to actually show the patient for the first time. And so we gave her a mirror, and I took some photos before I gave her the mirror. I wanted to see, there's my F line, you know, and the F's and the V's. Her speech was perfect. There was no lisping or slurring. I felt like we got the right length for her. Could we go a little bit more? Possibly. But at this point, I just wanted to see the emotional impact on her to see if we got it. The cant, I don't know if you guys noticed this earlier, she had a natural cant with her teeth. We were able to correct that cant. So I was very happy with that as well. So then what I did is I took a series of photos here. And so the top is where I started. The bottom is just the Luxitemp in her mouth. This is not the finished product. I want to be very clear on that. But I think we did a pretty good job with the quarter smile, half smile, and full smile there. Actually, there's probably 3/4 smile on the right. But if you notice, her lip is a lot more relaxed once she saw this. She was like somebody took a 100-pound sack of potatoes off her back here, and she felt very, very relieved and happy. So again, I document all my cases, and I wanted to show. I think we did a pretty good job here to match. But more importantly, let me show you what we found next. Again, she went into the bathroom. We took the photos. This is the photo you saw earlier. Sorry, the photo you saw earlier. The top is the pre-op. The bottom is the mock-up with the Luxitemp from the Exoplan. Not Exoplan. That's wow. Where's my mind there? I'm thinking of implants right now. I do apologize. The Smile Creator. And so this is what we got. This is the impact that we have here. But then we went one step further here, and I want to take pictures of her. If you remember the pictures I took before on her, look at how her eyes are open and bright. She's smiling. She's looking sassy in the last two photos. And she was incredibly happy with what we did there. She was so happy. Again, she had me spot bond them on. This lady works in the dental field, and she was going on a date with her sweetie. And it was really nice for her to have that and to see how excited she was with this. We were able to give her what she wanted, but then more importantly, she's now decided to do the ortho, which is going to be critical to make this case work absolutely the right way. So we were able to change her life by doing this. It's really, really, really incredible that we were able to do this. And I love the fact that this is the profession that we're in and what we're doing here. And so, I always tell people that dog is man's best friend. And so I love this. When I yell at my dog when he's barking, I wonder if he's like, hey, that's awesome, we're barking together. I mean, I think things like this. And I always tell people when I present that, the dog is man's best friend. I can absolutely prove it. If you take your significant other and a dog and you put them both in a trunk of a car for 30 minutes and you come back and you open up that trunk, who's going to be happier to see you? Absolutely, it's going to be the dog. So I just want to thank you guys very much for coming today. And we go back to that slide again. This is my happy place, and I love sharing what works. And we are evolving with digital. It's going at warp speed. I'm happy to be part of this. I love showing you what works in my hands, and I like having something that's simple and repeatable. And the Smile Creator by Exocad really checks all those boxes. And when Holly introduced this today, they have really gone above and beyond, aesthetic professionals above and beyond in trying to serve the needs of us, of the dentists, of their clients during this time of a lot of uncertainty. They've really made a decision to be partnering with us, giving us educational opportunities during this downtime. And I, for one, appreciate it. I really do. And Dave, I appreciate you as well for having me come on today and filling this time in. But if there's any questions about Smile Creator, don't hesitate to reach out to Dave or Holly or myself, and we can help you on this. It's a wonderful program. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell and Dave. I really, really appreciate you doing this. I do have a couple of questions from before as we were going through. One that I'm getting is, so the initial scan that you brought in with the color scan, was that an STL? And they're wondering what kind of file it is, and also somebody who has a prime scan is wondering how that works for them.
Well, those are great questions. This was done with the prime scan. It was not an STL file. You can export from your desktop as an STL, but you lose your color. So when you buy the prime scan through whoever you buy it from, it comes with a Connect Live Inbox license. And you then can set that up to where you now create yourself as a lab. You can now send it as an OBJ or a PLY, which is what I did. And there's a lot of directions on how to do that. And Exocad is really good at walking you through that as well, so that you can have that scan done. So that was a prime scan. And I did it through the Connect Live Inbox, where you have the license key as part of your purchase with the prime scan.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and you can also search for a wiki page that we have published. Just type in Dentsply Sirona, CEREC, and Exocad. It should be one of the first few hits on your browser. And there's wiki instructions on how to form that connection.
Okay, and then I'm going to kind of try to combine two questions. Someone is wondering if you can combine this process with a more functionally correct full arch diagnostic wax up. Somebody else was bringing up facial scanning, and if that's been tried out by Exocad yet.
Okay, yes, so we do have certain face scanners that are already integrated. Bellis, I think, for one, if you're looking at the valued market where you either pay per export or pay a low fee annually, they've actually incorporated some features in their own software that allow you to create the alignment, and then everything gets exported, and you can automatically import that into the scene. With other face scanners, you can certainly import the data. Usually it is a color format, so it'll be .ply or .obj, and they'll come over with the color and texture data, and then we do have alignment tools in the software that you can use to align those. Now, where that may be useful is if you are taking a look at maybe angular shots where you want to rotate the model and just see how far it protrudes, facially. That may be helpful there. I think from a texture standpoint, or just being able to visualize like we did today with Dr. Campbell's case, the clinical photos still present much better than a face scan. Sometimes the texture and the colors don't translate as good as it does with clinical cameras, or just normal cameras.
Right, and Holly, going back to the question that the person that has a prime scan was asking about the how did I get that color model? It wasn't an STL. One of the additional things that I like is that once you set up your Connect Live Inbox and you sync that with your Exocad, it actually brings your scan directly into Exocad. You don't have to manually bring it into Exocad. It's seamless, and that saves time. And so that's a really nice added benefit as well.
And to finish up with the first part of that question, Holly, I think there were actually two separate questions. Can you do a functionally generated design? And the answer is absolutely yes. We could have actually brought this into a virtual articulator, gone through the motions, taken a look at the contacts to see how well that fit. I just didn't set up the case like that initially, but is it possible? Absolutely, yes. And many of the users that are taking it to that step or working on a more comprehensive case will go through those few extra steps of just getting those contacts in the right place.
Okay, thank you. Another question was, does the program automatically select the gingival curtain? And if so, does it select it based on the color difference between the teeth and the gums?
So that's interesting. I think when we are positioning the library teeth, if you're looking at, let me show my screen again. All right, I think you guys can visualize that now, right? So when you look at this three-dimensionally, you have the shape of the library teeth that will just kind of curve inward naturally and create the necks down underneath. Those will actually be just naturally fall into the gum line there. In some cases, if we were to bring this tooth out further, you may have some of the more bulky area of this tooth design protrude past that. So it's not necessarily that we are selecting the that curtain, I think is what you're referring to that as, or are we extracting that from the color data? This is all just kind of naturally occurring based on this three-dimensional shape here. You can get creative if you did have a complex case there where you had to hide it. And if you guys remember when I was designing the lip line, I think I could turn that back on. So this lip line that we created, that is used to block out some of the data from the JPEG images that are imported. And if you did have to hide something, you could just kind of scallop that lip line around that gingival contour and see how that visual changes. But in most cases, probably I would say close to 95% of them, this will kind of just fall in naturally, just like it did on this case. All right. Anything to add there, Dr. Campbell?
No, I think you nailed that pretty well. I've never seen a program that is as robust as this. When I first saw it, I was kind of cautious going into this when it was being shown to me, and I was looking for it to be a lot of smoke and mirrors, and it turned out to be actually quite functional. And so someone who does a lot of smile designs and does a lot of aesthetics, I find this to be very, very appealing. Face scanning, is really becoming quite important. In fact, some of you are aware that face scanning is being used now to print and do the prototypes for these N95 masks that a lot of dentists are working together on for the hospitals. The newest one is they're going to scan, and the people could scan with their iPhone and send it to the lab. The lab will actually custom make them the mask. So I thought that was an interesting comment that somebody asked about the facial scanning, unrelated to what I just said, but it's kind of interesting the different features that there is being used for today.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. I actually just designed a mask based on Exocad and did that with the bite split module. So that gave me the ability to offset by a certain amount and just have like a specified thickness for the plastic that was being printed out. Now that said, of course, a lot of these are not, they're like last resort masks because obviously
Right.
they've never been tested. But yeah, it is interesting how the printing community has really come together to step up on or step up to the challenge of the shortage that the entire world is experiencing.
It's true. And then the last thing I want to leave everybody with is just kind of a philosophy of what Holly and aesthetic professionals has done. We should be doing for our team and for our patients. You want to stay in contact and take care of your stakeholders. Take care of the people that take care of you and help build your practice. Be in communication with them. I'm doing some Zoom conferencing with my team this afternoon. I'm also reaching out to our patients. We all have a lot of time right now. At least now we filled out our SBA loans and the PPP loans. But now it's the time to focus on your business. So when you open, you can hit the ground running instead of going, okay, now what? We've got to pick up, we've got a lot of lag and going. You're going to have a bunch of recall that's past due. You're going to be spending a lot of time on that and adding. And so this is a time for us to lead, kind of like Holly's been doing with aesthetic professionals. We need to lead our team. And this was a good thing. You came in today, you listened to this. I hope you found it helpful. I enjoyed putting this together for you very much. And are there any other questions, Holly, or are we done here?
I did have a couple more questions. One I was going to answer. I was just going to let everybody know. I'm going to send an email probably this afternoon. You'll get one from Jesse or I. As soon as I get this presentation up on the web, I'm going to send you a link to it so that you can review it later on. And then somebody was asking too, really quick, is there a template that you can put all of the before and after photos to show the patient?
No, I created my own templates. I don't have, I didn't see one. I've never seen one publicly. So, I asked around to a few friends, a few of my prosthodontic friends that I refer to, and they all had manually created their own stuff as well. So I just ended up doing a template basically in PowerPoint. And then I take a JPEG of that and put it into their file.
Okay, thank you. And then really quick, Dave, I wasn't sure on this. Smile Creator isn't a standalone module, right? It's an add-on to Exocad.
So great question. And actually, Smile Creator is one of the modules that we do offer as a standalone component. So if you really just want the functionality that you saw today, and take away that the merging of the two files that comes with Model Creator. So standalone Smile Creator will capture the Smile Creator and Smile Design workflow. That is available as a standalone module if that's all you need. In addition to that, you could layer this on top of chairside CAD or dental CAD as an additional module, but you do have your option there.
Okay, so for the people asking about pricing, I will send that to you in an email because I'm gonna go through and look into that for you. I believe that is it. Let me just make sure.
Just one more, Dr. Campbell, thank you so much for joining us today. That was great. Really enjoyed that, and every time I listen to your presentation, I learn more and gain additional insight to that. So I really appreciate your time.
We're a good team, Dave. Let's do it again.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Holly, for having me.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.